Welcome back to Quarantine Engineering. On the previous episode, I showed you how to apply your solder paste. And in this episode, I'll start showing you how we actually put our components on the board. It's pretty simple as long as you're prepared. And again, in the last video I mentioned, make sure before you start this process, you have all your parts, they're labeled, you know where they are, and you have that. And I also like to make my little handy cheat sheets that are labeled so I can cross things off as I go. And of course, having a nice work surface, if possible, we won't be interrupted. Well, it's a challenge. Luckily, my toddler is napping, so I have a narrow window here to get things done. But hey, deadlines always drive us. So, how I like to personally build circuits. All the other things you need, of course, then is you should need some good tweezers. Some fine point tweezers are helpful. When you're buying your parts, you can buy some tweezers with fine points that are not magnetic and hopefully ESD dissipating so the parts don't stick from Mouser or DigiKey. However, if you're in a bind or that, again, quarantine, they also, these fine manicure scissors or tweezers from my wife's medicine cabinet, probably from Walmart or Target, also work very well, where a nice fine point is good for small parts. Of course, this could get you in trouble later, and after you've used them for this, you should keep them for electronics. So I'll have to replace them. But look at these points, nice and sharp. I'm very excited, and we can have a go. So the first thing I like to do then is I start by placing my high density parts with a lot of pins. And the reason I do that is they're the most challenging, and so if I mess up at that point, I can remove the part and I can start over with my solder paste. The last thing you want to do is you do all this work placing, several dozen parts, and then you mess up one, and then, you got to start over. So I like to start with my big parts, see how they go. Another strategy some people use is they'll put their cheapest stuff down, and then they'll put the expensive one last. So that way, if you mess up, you haven't burned up your expensive part. I don't know what the right answer is there, but, do it. And so I'm going to start with, this is an MSP 432. They come nicely packaged like this, and I make sure I'm grounded and everything else. And so these ones are square, and so luckily one pair of tweezers gives me a pretty good reach. So if I can grab it, and these ones are a little bit more challenging. Once you get these down, the resistors and capacitors are a picnic. Take your time. Like I said, we're not rushing too much as long as we don't have other extrinsic deadlines here. Let's do it on the pick one. Got a good angle here. It's always fun doing this when you have a video. So I'm going to do, so if you think solder paste kind of has the consistency, I like to say, of like peanut butter. And so it lets you reposition things. And then, so what I'll do is I'll kind of set it down. Try to get it lined up as close as you can. See, right now I'm way off. And make sure for these directional parts you have it. Now I'm not pushing down, but I'm carefully lining it up. Like that. And once I have it how I like it, and I kind of carefully look, and all the pins look like they're lined up, and I'll just kind of tamp down ever so gently. And that kind of sets it on the part. Now, of course, these things are sitting loose on there, so you don't want to jostle and move things around, so you want to be careful as you process your board. But just like that, we set them on the paste. And so I'll do that again for this one. And if you would get yourself like one of those fancy little vacuum suckers that could help hold things, it'd be much easier to process this. But again, quarantine engineering, so I don't have that handy. I'm trying to do the minimum here to do it. Now if we get back in the lab, we get these little toys, our life could be so much easier. But let me turn the light on here. Good lighting may not be the best for recording, but kind of get things lined up just like that. Looks pretty good. Carefully move things around. Of course, you move it around. Also, make sure you don't accidentally smudge your solder paste. Hopefully, get it in just like Now, don't fret if when you solder things short out. Another thing you can use is a solder wick, and so if things are shorted across it, you can then use solder wick to extract the extra solder. So now, got these down, and they look pretty good, and they're in place. And of course, then I have my cheat sheets, so I will take my highlighter. I'm going to mark them off. Of course, these ones are pretty obvious, but creature habit. So now that I've crossed off the part, I can move on to the next component. Keep going. And one thing to think about is placement. Some components are harder to reach than others, depending on how you place other components. And so just take your time and be thoughtful and do that. We can do that. So just to show you another example then, we have these 180K resistors. Where are those? Only one of those on this board. So I will just show you then a very small part. So these are 402s, right here, tiny. Can't even see them with the light. Let me see if I turn the light off, it's better. Right, they come in this thing, and always order extras. They're very cheap. And actually you'll see there's a price drop typically at 10. So if you do that, so what you do is I just peel back the film with my tweezers, just like that. The tweezers film back, so expose a couple, and I can extract one of these, and of course they're small, and because I'm recording it, they went flying places they normally wouldn't do. And these are all 402s. I'm hoping that you're doing something slightly bigger, 603s, etc., because these are really small and hard to deal with. And I'm going to use these other tweezers. So now that I've got one out, I make sure I look carefully on my board where it goes, and then I can go down. I can just place it just like that. And once I'm happy, just give it a tap. And there's the resistor installed there. And you can see that was very easy, much easier than the big ones. And then we repeat. So we can just go here. And the nice thing is, once it touches the solder paste, usually it sticks to the solder paste just like that. So once I've done that, I can go here and I can keep filling these in until we're done. And so this will take me a little while, and so I'll come back once we've finished this process.